Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Opportunistic Trader. It is 11:15 on September 26th, and we have the Fed coming out in about 3 hours. And we've had a lot of it's a bit of a quiet day in the market, but a lot of things going on. We just had the Department of Energy report. Crude is trading down 50 cents at 71.75, roughly where it was before it came out. So we'll keep a close eye on that. But we're joined now by Alan Hill, who is the lead consultant at treasuryconsultancy.com. Alan joined us last week discussing Brexit. Alan is located in the UK and so has a lot of information, pays close attention to everything going on, and there have been a lot of headlines, so it's great to get his information. Alan, welcome.
Hi, thanks very much, Mike. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's great to speak with you. As I said, it was, Brexit, it seems like nonstop. My headline keeps going with this EU leader, this EU person says this UK person says that. What's the latest, and what's been the price action?
Well, the price action has been pushing sterling back up again, as we've seen from the lows that we hit last week, when we really, if you like, reached rock bottom as regards the relationship between London and Brussels over the negotiations regarding the future relationship between the UK and EU following Brexit. Since then, it's been the same old story, really. It's been a bit of no news is bad news. So as long as no news is good news. So as long as we hear nothing, everyone in the market assumes that they must be talking, they must be hatching a plan. Well, I think that's not the case when you look at the headline we've had today, where Messrs Juncker, Tusk and Barnier are all talking about hatching more plans for a no-deal Brexit. I think that obviously it's going to affect the UK quite badly, the no-deal Brexit, but where you have, or the prospect of a no-deal Brexit, but where you have this rather odd relationship between the 28 remaining countries of the EU and the EU Council and EU Commission themselves, where those three gentlemen really are keen to basically control what the EU does, whereas the heads of government, Merkel, Macron, and the rest, are all more interested in their own countries and what their relationship is, and they'll look at what their relationship is in the UK. Be all kinds of things going on behind the scenes, but for now it really is no news is good news. So we've seen sterling getting bought up again.
Yeah, well, that's like you said, pound is we traded below 127 about 8 weeks ago, and here we are closer to 132. So that's been a decent little pop. That said, we've been hovering around the 130 level for a while now. But what's the latest in terms of on the news front?
Well, on the news front, we've it's the party conference season, or in the UK. So all of the major political parties have their conferences, or at this time of year. And we started with the Labour Party, the main opposition party's conference, and they've been going through a lot of issues regarding the actual makeup of their party, and a major anti-Semitism row has been brewing in that party, and that's been what was expected to be the major thrust of their conference. But it's been hijacked to a certain extent by Brexit, and there's been three major releases of news, etc., that have come out of the conference. First, that no matter what deal the conference has agreed, that no matter what deal the government managed to extract from Brussels, Labour will vote against that deal. So that's quite a big issue. That's quite a big thing to say, because they're basically saying that we are a political party and we're not. It's not our job to help the UK get out of the EU, or to help the governments get a deal with get out the EU, which is a pretty narrow attitude. And when we talked last week about the party politicisation of Brexit, which I felt was a mistake right at the start, because the rank and file of the Labour Party are mostly leave voters. So you'll have MPs who have to vote down a deal, or to struggle to support the government in its quest to get a good deal for the UK, where their voters are actually against anything. So it's a difficult one. Secondly, a major vote was taking place, and they've come out in support of a second referendum, which struck me as a bit odd, because for me, a second referendum simply means that if we get a deal and the government has to take it to the country for a referendum on whether the country likes that deal or not. Well, if they don't like that deal, what do we do then? Do we go back to the drawing board? And then a third part was added to that second referendum, which said Labour, the opposition party, will support a clause in the second referendum that has a Remain option, which is a deal that hasn't really been picked up on too much, which basically means that the Labour Party, the main opposition party in the UK, has now become a party of Remain, because they believe that remaining in the EU is a better option than leaving, and that is they've never come out and said that, and their leader has never come out and said that. So that's, if they put a Remain option clause into any referendum they support, or they manage to get the government to agree to, then it's going to set a whole new chain of events where there is basically another whole referendum on EU membership or not. That's where we are with Labour, and they're kind of wrapping up today and tomorrow. So those are the big things that have come out from them about Brexit. And this weekend we have the ruling Conservative Party's conference, which Theresa May can't in any way, shape, or form be looking forward to, as she is she's going to be hit from all sides. There's a rumour that, well, there's a story that 80 government members of Parliament are actually going to vote down her Chequers proposals, which leaves her basically totally exposed, because she has pinned every hope she has for getting this agreement through. And with the Salzburg summit last week throwing it out, and then you have her own party disagreeing with it, and her plaintive cry earlier over the weekend, where she said that her cabinet, her group of ministers, completely agree with the Chequers proposals. That cannot be the case, and yet she's managed to keep them quiet over what they do and don't think. So that's where we are on Brexit. It's a mess, and we all know it's a mess. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And for me, it's still Sterling is still going to be a long-term sell. But within all that, of course, there are pockets of reasons why sterling can be bought up from various levels. There's still an economy that's doing reasonably well. It's not doing great, it's doing reasonably well. Inflation has picked up again, so that will interest the Bank of England, and they have recently raised rates, and they are in a rate hike mode. So as far as anything non-Brexit is concerned, sterling is probably neutral to buy, whereas when you add Brexit into it, then it really does muddy the waters, I should say.
What about you're pessimistic on the whole Brexit negotiations and where it's going to go. Why hasn't the FTSE or the pound really reacted negatively?
Well, I think that one of the main reasons is that there's kind of pockets of hope, as it were, that a deal will be done. I mean, if you look at it totally logically, you couldn't possibly imagine that a deal won't get done. You can't think that these politicians, whether it's the hardline EU heads in those three guys I was talking about, or even the majority of the government and opposition MPs, all want a deal to be done. And there are various stumbling blocks that have been put in the way of that deal getting done. Most serious one clearly is the Irish issue, the Irish border issue. But I think it's more of a sterling issue than a FTSE issue. Business investment has been falling, but I think it's reached a bit of a point now where companies have realised that they have to go on trading, and they're going to continue trading. They will have to at some point, invest in their businesses to keep them afloat. So from that perspective, the FTSE is unlikely to fall a great deal more on the back of that. I think that it's more, and as regards to FTSE, it's the economy that's going to drive that. So higher interest rates are going to obviously have a bigger effect than, for now, Brexit. But those who export to have an export market within the EU are going to start to concern themselves in much the same way, to be quite honest, that firms in in the EU are going to worry about their export markets into the UK, in particular the motor industry, because the UK, although it doesn't have much of a we don't sell many cars. We don't have, although there are manufacturers who aren't British who manufacture here. But the UK is very much at the forefront of the parts industry. So a lot of the parts that go into these vehicles built in France, Germany, Italy, wherever, are coming from the UK, and that's a big deal for the EU motor vehicle industry. So there's a lot happening with regard to a two-sided street. I think that's the reason that that the pound hasn't absolutely collapsed, is because there is a belief that in the end, at the end of the day, a deal will get done.
Yeah, well,
which isn't my belief.
As you said, it's very complicated. But also looking at the chart of the pound, when you can correct me on this, but I think the pound was close to about 150 when the initial vote was cast. I guess at this point 2 years ago. So we have seen a pretty decent retracement there. I guess we're only
absolutely, yeah.
And even just a few years before that, we were closer to 2. So it has had a steady decline over the past decade.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was just about 150, 148. I'm just looking at the chart now, a bit longer term. 149.50 I see on the 24th of June 16, which is literally 3 days after the vote. Was the high, but it was on a downslope then anyway, and it came all the way down to best part of 119.88, and then as
remember we had that flash crash in Asia one night where it dropped 10 big figures in a matter of minutes on just lack of liquidity.
Yeah, I remember what those were like. When you look at that, the big move lower, the current move lower, let's say, which as you say has kind of steadied around 130 and change, was really caused by the Bank of England governor Mark Carney, who was basically telling everyone, or hinting to everyone, I should say, that there was going to be a rate hike far sooner than there was, and a lot of hedge funds got quite long of sterling into that belief that the UK was going to start hiking rates and that QE was going to be taken away, and that gave them a belief that not only was the economy going to do quite well, but the Bank of England believed that there was going to be a Brexit deal done reasonably soon. And of course, as soon as he came out and said, "Well, actually, no, we're not going to hike rates," you saw sterling collapse about 400 points in a day from a high of 141.95. And then it got down to 127 odd and then back up again. And I think that the Bank of England were quite concerned. Well, firstly, the Bank of England were quite concerned about the effect they could have positively upon the pound rather than negatively, rather than if they say bad things negatively. And I think that hedge funds have to a certain extent remained shy of actually getting too heavily involved until they see more of a clear picture. I think that's another reason why sterling hasn't really gone below the 127 level.
I get these updates. I just got another headline update. It says Ireland European Minister. Some elements of the Brexit deal work, other elements do not. It's we get these all the time, nonstop. And then just before, about 30 minutes ago, Finance Minister Hammond announces the budget will take place. They're just nonstop Brexit. It almost reminds me of when we were having the pigs, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Spain years ago, when there were tons of just comments. Oh, this is going to happen. Bailout, not bailout. This will work. This won't work. It's just nonstop headlines from nonstop parties.
The thing about Brexit, Mike, is that there is a saying that's been attached to Brexit, that there's no deal until every deal is agreed. There's 300, 400 moving parts to Brexit. Until there's agreement on every one of them, nothing is agreed. So to say that there are parts that work and parts that don't is basically saying go away and start again and come back with a plan that does work.
Yeah. Well, it's a fascinating topic, and you guys are front and center over there. Have a lot more information. But keep us updated. Some great information. And so Alan writes blogs in our FX blog post area. He's also providing some information in the chat. So thanks for all that contributions, and keep us updated.
I will. My pleasure. Good to talk to you again.
All right. Thanks, Alan. Talk to you later.
You take care. Bye-bye now.